What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring you incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is co-founder and creative visionary behind Naked Revival. He is also a director and producer of multiple documentaries and docuseries, including the award-winning Raising Global Citizens, Finding Nowhere, Colombia, Revive, and the author of Getting Naked, the Bare Necessities of Entrepreneurship and Startups. Please welcome Joel Primus. Joel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I have to say, you have incredibly blue eyes. I just noticed this.
Thank you. Yeah, I get asked if they're like real, if they're real or fake a lot. So
all yours?
My dad has the real blue eyes, and my mom has blue eyes too, but they're like a darker blue. So I got his eyes.
Is that like Scandinavian? Because they're like that icy.
Polish.
Oh, Polish. Got it. Well, I didn't mean to set us off. That I just thought the moment they're stunning.
Thank you. You're good. Thank you very much. You flatter me. Well, I think you've got a lot going on as well. I want to start off with. Well, geez, I don't even know where to start off. I forgot to. Did I mention that you guys? He's also the host of the Ramble podcast. I must have like missed that part too. So he's a podcaster.
That's the funny thing about entrepreneurship, right? Is like the label. This is to get right into labels, right? It's when you say you're an entrepreneur, they're like, well, what do you mean? What does that mean? And then you're like, okay, you pick one thing, and that's the box people put you in. But part of the wonderful thing about being an entrepreneur is that you kind of like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You're so curious about life that you want to go here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say, hey, this is what I am. This is what I do. Because it's fun to explore all the different interests you have in life.
Yeah, and you've explored quite a few. So you were a long distance runner, and that you're an elite long distance runner. And is that when you started Naked Revival? Right? Is it the underwear?
Yeah, it's a really interesting and conflicting part of my history because
let's hear it. Conflict, everybody loves conflict a little bit,
right? I mean, I think that we all. Let's backtrack a little bit here, right? So we're born into this world where we stand no chance but to be sort of baptism by fire, given all of these different labels of who we are, what we should do, from our parents, from our teachers, from our priests, from our, from government officials, whatever it is, we're told all of these things. And we're kind of set on this path, right? Because society likes to organize things, and I get that, right? And so for me, this is why I say this is a conflicting thing. When I was a runner, I was so grateful for the experience that it gave me in terms of learning discipline, in terms of learning risk and reward, in terms of the ability to push my limits and see where I could take my body. It removes doubt. It says, hey, I'm this good. No, I think I can be better, right? And so that was such a gift that it gave me. But the dark side of what happened was there was this feedback loop, right? Where I became I was a good runner. And so I became this person who became addicted to the success and addicted to the feedback loop of winning equals goodness, right? Yeah. And then it's not like a poor me story, right? I'm not trying to make it that. What ended up happening was I'd represented Canada a few times internationally, and then I had a full ride. I was actually in your neck of the woods. I was down in North Carolina, and I competed in South Carolina. You're South Carolina, right?
No, I'm in Chicago, but I'm familiar with North and South Carolina.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Oh, that's all right. Beautiful area, though, North South Carolina, and great food.
I love Chicago. Talk about great food. But so I ended up rupturing my Achilles, and I lost my scholarship. And I had the first real identity crisis of my life, because when I felt inside that I was done with the running, everybody's like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you do that? And all of a sudden I felt bad for deciding to do something I wanted to do because I was pushed into running by my parents, right? And I was sort of encouraged to keep doing it.
Sure.
And I became very disgruntled with it and very frustrated that this idea of like, well, my heart's telling me to go this way. And all of a sudden that's upset every single other person in my life. And I was ready for a change. I was done with it. And how it ended up leading to Naked was I was so upset with everybody and myself for having left this label of being a runner, being a good boy because I was good at something. I hitchhiked across the country. I literally did not tell anybody, packed my bag. I told my dad, and then like day of, I told my mom, I'm hitchhiking across the country. I'm leaving it all behind. And that freed me.
Yeah, liberating. Totally.
And then this is a long story long, I apologize. That journey took me to Peru, and it was in Peru where I ended up finding some underwear. Well, I needed some underwear, which led to the inspiration behind starting an underwear company. So I'll leave it there. But that's
I love it.
How got started. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also heard that when you started it, weren't you on national TV in your underwear?
Yeah, I have a sickness, and it's
I don't have a sickness.
I have a disease, and it's called jumping into things too soon. And I just kind of this blind faith that it's all going to work out no matter what I do. And sometimes I love it, and sometimes I'm like, oh, what have I done? That was one of those situations where I had made a few pairs of the underwear. I had a friend's grandma sew some.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It was just prototypes, like very, very, very prototypey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any entrepreneur who's listening to this will know what I mean when your first
Well, I was a fashion designer, so I know like kind of a little bit of the process and what it takes, not underwear, but just clothes for women. So yeah, you got to have your prototype, your samples, and then you go from there.
So I make this prototype, and somebody I knew is at the television network, and they go, hey, you want to go on Dragon's Den, which is your Shark Tank?
Okay.
I'm like, yeah. And not really having any idea what it really meant that I was about to, I didn't understand business. I didn't understand valuations,
sure,
and how to capture market share, et cetera. But I jumped in, and next thing you know, I'm on national TV. I'm standing there in my underwear.
I love it.
They're like, hey, I think this will make good TV, strip down. And then, you can imagine this. When they started roasting me, all of a sudden, your whole body goes tingly and red, and you're just like, you're feeling all embarrassed, and you have nowhere to hide.
Yeah, right.
So that's that. But when the show aired, people kind of appreciated the tenacity, and things started to roll.
Absolutely. I'm very much like you as well, where I just will do, like, if I have this idea, I'm just going to do it, right? And sometimes it works out. Well, most times it works out. Other times it's like, maybe I should have thought about that. But do you regret it? I mean, I feel like that's just like that's kind of part of your story now, part of like your personality, and saying, yeah, I went on national TV in my underwear. And
well, you want to know, I by the time this podcast airs, I'll have made a decision, but I've just been asked to go on Japan's Dragon's Den.
Cool.
So it's really interesting. So I would have a translator if I went.
Okay. Yeah.
And the show's called Reiwa no Tora, which is Money Tigers. It's actually the original. And so I'm kind of in a bit of a nostalgic, contemplative place.
Do it.
Well,
do it. I'm sure you still look great. Do it.
15 years later, should I, do I still got it kind of thing? But
yeah, I'm posted everywhere. Absolutely.
I probably will, but I have found to answer your question that as I have aged, and more importantly, as I've had children, there's been an adjustment in how I take risks compared to before. I am still, compared to most people in my peer group, if you will, I'm what you call a redliner. I take a lot of big risks. I really roll the dice. But that I've found a shift, and I'm trying to reconcile that within myself.
Sure. Right. Yeah. I think you have a different type of responsibility now than it's not just you anymore. You have a family. So I understand that. And I'm in my 40s, and so my risk taking has shifted as well, but I'm still taking risks. And I feel like people like us are a great example for those out there that, might be listening to this and that are considering taking a risk in their life that could do big things for them. You never know unless you try. Yeah. And I love the idea of you 15 laters going on TV in Japan in your underwear again. Like, I think that's awesome. I mean, you look like you probably are still in great shape. So if you weren't, that might be a little, but like, why not? I think that's awesome.
Little bit hairier, a little bit grayer, but why not?
So
I'm curious if you have one. I mean, I have different formulas for how I assess risk now. I look at there's sort of a stoic fear setting visualization or a negative visualization. It's like, okay, what's the worst scenario? Am I okay with that? In the Dragon's Den Japan scenario, it's looking like a donkey and not even knowing it because I can't, because it's all coming through a translator. But really the spirit of that is coming to terms with the worst case scenario ahead of making the decision.
Sure.
Right. The other side of it is really trusting that one of two things is going to happen with a failure. One is that you're going to learn something no matter what. And that is true. I know it's a bit cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
And the other is generally something happens because when we make a choice, that is the beginning of an adventure. That is the beginning of new energy. It shifts energy into the direction of the choice. And so I've always found that something comes of it that is positive, but it is hard to see it sometimes.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I personally don't like the word failure. So I did my whole dream, my for as long as I can remember, my dream was to be a fashion designer. So after my late husband passed, so I was married before, passed away about 8.5 years ago. Like, I was like, that's it. I'm going to go after it. Because we had businesses together. We were very focused on our businesses. And I invested a lot into it, not knowing anything about the industry. I was on the runway at Style Week in Rhode Island. I was the finalist for the Cadillac Design Challenge here. And my third collection, I did it for an event I put on here against human trafficking with 6 other Chicago-based designers. And I told myself, after my third collection, if it doesn't take off, then that's it. I'm not investing any more money.
Yeah.
So I did the last collection. It didn't take off, and that was it. I had to close up shop, and I had to reconcile. I had to reconcile it with myself. Like, it's not. I didn't get to the success that I wanted to get to, but I did it. I pulled the trigger. I put myself out there. I went after a dream. Most people in their lifetime will not take that kind of risk. And so I choose, instead of sitting there feeling sorry for myself and feeling like a failure, I chose to say, you know what? I took the chance. And I created some incredible memories, an incredible brand. And I can't ever I can't regret making that choice.
I think what you did was really, really powerful. And there's a really important lesson in there, in that we have to understand the motivation behind our choices, right? And so when you came to the point in which you said, all right, if this one doesn't go, I am okay with that. I am prepared to move on into different things. For the person who says, I'm not going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
The question that they have to ask themselves is, why am I not okay with that?
Right.
Because something that I've found in myself as I've gone through business decisions, life decisions, is understanding the context of my thought process and what is informing my decision to not be able to let go of something. Is it ego? Is it pride? To your point, like, let's use the word failure. If I am unwilling to fail, what is that? What happened to me that I can't have that thing, right? And I can't let go of it and move on and find new paths for myself. I think that we all need to spend time understanding how we are thinking about things, and what is, I'm repeating myself, but what is informing that decision. And so for you, just a question back to you, how were you able to just be so strongly grounded in that, you know what, it's okay. I made this, I drew this line in the sand, and I'm going to stick with it.
Well, I had to reflect on, not knowing anything about the industry. I knew how to sew when I was a teenager. I made a lot of my own clothes, but I didn't know how to make patterns. I didn't know how to do any of that. So I had to reflect on that journey of, number one, it was a dream of mine. I went after it, even during the worst of times, having to put my life back together after losing almost everything. That's number one. Number two, getting to a runway, having a successful Kickstarter, being a finalist for the Cadillac Design Challenge, like, these were all very positive things, and so when I look back, like, okay, I didn't reach the financial goal that I had, but I did reach the goal of being a successful fashion designer, being recognized on different platforms for what I had accomplished. And so, if I was to ever do it again, I would do things a lot differently. That's a possibility as I get a little bit older and, my things shift in my life. But like, I learned a lot, and it was fun, and I did it. Like, I did it. Like, a lot of people would never take that risk. And that's what a lot of people have said to me over the years. Like, you took that risk to do that. I remember my little sister was like, well, you don't think that anybody else would want to be a fashion designer? And I'm assuming that was her feeling towards me, a little like resentful that I took that risk, and she's never done that.
Her feeling towards herself, you mean?
Correct. Yes,
Yeah,
correct. She's not a risk taker. Very, very like careful and calculated. I'm like,
There's an interesting thing about, trusting our nature in that regard, right? Where if she's not a risk taker, is that truly her nature? Or is the resentment that she feels towards your willingness to take risk pointing to the fact that she actually wants to be a risk taker?
Yeah.
But she's choosing to build her life around the fear of leaning into that, right?
Yeah.
It's so refreshing to hear you say one thing that I've found, and I'm sure everybody who's listening on this, we probably have so many successful people who've done great things listening to this podcast. And if they're anything like me, they're probably very hard on themselves, and they don't look at the way you just listed all those wonderful accomplishments you had as a practice of sort of regrounding yourself or recalibrating yourself in gratitude and lifting yourself up. Whereas, because I've always had, originally I thought happiness was getting what you want. And as time has gone on, I realize it's wanting what you have, at least to me. And that comes from this ability to look at the things we've done and be like, wow, look at all those things, right? Mm-hmm. And there's this exercise that somebody taught me once, which is they call it like, if you were to have a friend look at your life and be like, look at all those great things you've done, whereas in your head you framed it as like, well, look at all the things I haven't done or things I've failed at. Mm-hmm. And if the exercise is, can you be the compassionate observer in your own life for yourself? And it seems like you can.
I try to, but it's not always like that. You have to, it's an exercise, like you said. And, instead of sitting there being like, woe is me, I didn't reach this level of success that in my mind, that was the goal. I did reach different other levels of success. And so there were moments that I was crying like, oh my God, I'm a failure. But then I looked at it, I had to tell me, no, I'm not. I wasn't a failure. I think pulling the trigger and trying something, chasing a dream, like whatever that might be, that is taking that first step towards it is a success in itself. Because a lot of people are frozen at the start line.
Yeah, the paralysis. Our brains, fortunately and unfortunately, are designed to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And so the more time we spend in our heads, we tend to be able to rationalize ourselves out of any choice. Okay. But our spirit, our nature, our soul, that's designed to make us soar. And that's designed to take us on the adventure that is our life.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to go between the power of the brain and the power of the soul and the nature and our nature that's calling us towards some kind of goal is a much softer and subtler power. We can feel it.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't say things specifically like our mind can to us, and it doesn't have that nasty voice like our mind can have, the critic.
True. Yeah.
It so often loses out, and it's so sad.
Hi, guys. This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. I'm here to share another exciting partnership with you. I have joined forces with doTERRA. They are the leading provider of high-quality essential oils. I've got some here I like to consume, the ones that are consumable. So like sweet orange is really great. I also really, really love their toothpaste. Natural whitening, and just kind of really helps clean your mouth. We do carry a lot of germs in our mouth, but I've loved this toothpaste. I've ordered it many times. times. These are some supplements. Here is the Lifelong Vitality Pack. Really great products, high quality products. Definitely recommend it. I also really love the collagen. NMN is a proven anti-aging product. So the collagen and the NMN together is a real game changer. I'm big into collagen. I believe it. I've been taking it for like 20 years before it's even gotten so popular. And that's probably why I maintain my skin elasticity, my hair and nails. I highly recommend checking out doTERRA if you're a fan of high quality essential oils. Not all essential oils are created the same. Go click the links in the description, sign up, or take advantage of one of my bundles that I'm recommending to you with the toothpaste, also the cleaning products and the supplements. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you, and stay tuned for more to come. Do you feel that even though you contemplate some of your risks these days, do you feel that you allow things just to flow in your life more instead of, do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Because I feel like that is like, it's taken a long time for me to get there. And it's such a powerful place to be, just to let things flow.
Mm-hmm. You have hit on my greatest weakness.
Oh, okay.
My greatest weakness is the ability to allow things to flow. And my greatest strength, which is also, has its dark side, is this tenacious drive to constantly do, to constantly take action, to constantly think that I have agency and autonomy over everything that's happening in my world, just by the fact that I will get there on sheer willpower alone.
Yeah.
And that has its time and place, right?
Yeah.
But often it is so diluted, and it is so draining. And I have had a hard time turning it off. And I know there are so many moments in my life, in exercise, especially long distance running, in travel is one of those experiences where you can, I think this was easier without phones, before we had phones, but where you would go to a place and you could let the place take you and carry you. I spend a lot of time in the woods, and nature can eventually take hold and you can get into the flow of that. But in my working environment, where there are pings and dings from phones and computers and notifications and this and that all day long, I find myself still struggling to step out of the mechanicized desire to control and move things through my own efforts, and just letting go and letting in flow. And I think that is what the next half of my life is going to be dedicated to.
Yeah. Well, I think that anybody in business has to fight that and just try to, because I mean, yeah, that's, we get so distracted with, just like you said, I like how you worded that, the mechanicized, like we are so pulled in many different directions that it's kind of hard to allow things to flow. But sometimes you just have to force yourself just to disconnect and allow life to flow, I mean, there are things you got to take care of as a business owner. There are check boxes, but, in terms of like pushing things forward, sometimes you just got to let it. I mean, it sounds like a lot of things are flowing for you, though.
Yeah, I think you could appreciate that. Absolutely, they are. And underneath the surface, like most entrepreneurs, 99% of it is struggle. 99% of it is rejection. 99% of it is frustration.
Oh, yeah.
We were sold a bit of a bill of, we were sold a tiny falsehood in the hustle culture, in the hustle porn culture, in the, if you do it one way, you're going to make it. Hustle porn is like,
I like that. I've never heard that term before.
Hustle porn is like watching videos of Gary Vee hustling, right? Like,
yes.
I can't imagine what the opposite would be. But and it wired us into this idea that productivity at all costs was going to move things forward. And I think that there's a natural progression to things if we just stick with them, and we stick with them a little gentler, a little more gently, a little slower, still sticking to the getting things done, but not having to put them all in these very regimented boxes. And this is where I'm wanting to go. There's a lot of literature coming out. Cal Newport has books coming out on it, work-life balance, these types of things, where I think that is showing that there's sort of a collective consciousness amongst us all.
Yeah.
That is saying, okay, I think we pushed the dial a little too far and we got to bring it back, because this goes back to how much of our effort is driving the needle. And I think obviously how much of it is luck, how much of it is serendipity and being able to consistency. But again, softer consistency.
Yeah.
Being willing to succeed over the long tail. Like there's this, being a runner, this is actually an Illinois-based runner. His name's Dathan Ritzenheim.
Okay.
He's one of the greatest runners ever in the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He said, I accomplished everything I wanted to in my career when I look back, but it took me 15 years longer than I thought. And that goes to if I just am really productive, I'm going to accomplish it all in a year or 2 or 3. And things happen over the long tail.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do when we're constantly online, seeing people being successful every day.
Yeah, but what we're seeing online isn't the full truth. It's not the full story, and I think that, like you said, that we have deluded ourselves into believing that narrative, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes I get caught up in that, like, oh my God, I got to do this. But if I need a day just to relax and just to kind of like hit the reset button, I have to allow myself to do that, because tomorrow, it's going to all be there tomorrow, and it'll be fine. One day is not going to kill me. One day is not going to destroy the podcast or the business that I have behind it. That's a fallacy. That's not the truth. So, I appreciate the things that I see online, but I also realize that a lot of things that we're seeing is a narrative they want you to see. It's not the whole truth. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I mean, I know I don't post all the nasty stuff online. I mean, nobody wants to see. Well, I guess some people like to see that it's like a train wreck, right? But, like that's the truth of it. They say Instagram versus reality. I mean, it's the truth.
It's part of the reason I wanted to film the show Revive. So Naked Revival is my new company, and Revive is the camera came out day one. We brought in a camera crew day one to film what essentially has been the train wreck, to your point, of trying to launch this new business. And that's the side I wanted. I didn't want a train wreck for the sake of a train wreck, but I did want a completely honest, long form take on just how hard this is, because I've never once spoken to an entrepreneur who doesn't have my own story. My story is not unique.
Right.
Every entrepreneur is on the same journey.
Yes.
Right?
It's not easy being us, man. It's not easy. But it's worth it.
It's worth it because of who it's not. Here's my view on that. It's worth it because of who you become in the process. Again, that sounds cliched. One thing that I've learned, because I've had a lot of successes and I've had a lot of very expensive failures, right? And I have learned that if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, then there's no outcome that's going to be worth,
right?
No financial freedom that's going to be, because that financial freedom is a maybe. It's always a maybe, right? And we've all lost people in our lives. It's, again, very cliched, but I had a dear friend investor who died very early on in Naked, and it can just get cut off like that.
Yeah.
So this idea that there's something down the line, it's the freedom that you get to have as the choice of being an entrepreneur, to cultivate yourself against all the challenges that you face every single day, and become the person that you're trying to become the person that could be capable of that success, could be capable of having the audience size they want, controlling the billions of dollars, which you can't control day one, right? But also the person who's able to find the strength through the hard lessons that they've learned to be a good father, be a good partner, but most importantly, I think, is to be comfortable and happy with who they are, right? And so that's what I think the gift of entrepreneurship is. We can do that in anything. We can do that in any job.
Yeah.
But there's just this kind of, because it's all on you as an entrepreneur, you really do have to look in the mirror every day.
Oh, God, yeah.
Face those demons every day.
Yeah. And if you're, I think it forces you to grow as an individual. So, yeah, I mean, I 1,000% agree with you there. Where are your documentaries or docuseries? Where are they located? Where can people tune into those?
So Finding Nowhere is not out yet. Or it'll be out in the fall. Revive will be out in the fall.
Okay.
Raising Global Citizens, you can check out at raisingglobalcitizens.com or on the Go Traveler Network. It's on Apple TV.
Cool.
It's on Amazon Prime. It's in a few places. But joelprimus.com has all those things.
Okay.
You can kind of see all the little.
I like your website. I like the way it's set up. It's very cool. And then let's talk about Naked Revival and your underwear brand.
Here's the thing. So I read a little about you when I was stepping on this podcast, and I love that you dove into this journey of building this podcast and being kind of fearless in the process. And
I don't know about fearless, but I just don't let it run my life.
I feel the fearless vibes from you. Yeah. That's what I'm getting. I think that you're selling yourself short if you don't think you're fearless.
Thank you.
But the idea behind Revival was sort of in that spirit where we wanted to create underwear, but we actually put together a whole lifestyle business, which is in the process of launching, where we're not just going to have underwear, we're going to have clothing, some supplementation,
cool,
and even some home essentials. And the idea is to put these products together in where you can shop them by a routine.
Okay.
So the routine that's like, this is my goal, so this is the routine that helps me hit that goal, or this is just kind of the lifestyle vibe I want.
Sure.
I want the West Coast, I want the East Coast, I want the farm, And the reason for that was I've always felt that routines are a way to help us transition from one place to a next. They can move us in a way that gets us ready for something else, puts us in a frame of mind. We all have a little probably routine if we were going to go on a podcast, maybe it's as simple as taking a breath. And routines have always served me. And I thought that would be an interesting way to cut through the noise in the wellness business, package things in a way that I haven't seen done before.
I love that. Yeah.
And so that's what it is. And the underwear is going to launch first, but the rest of these products are going to be rounding out over the next few months. And I think it's going to be really cool to share, the way that I've tried to live through these routines as a way of bettering myself, to give people the same, entry point into their own routine, whatever speaks to them.
I love that. And I think the name itself kind of speaks volumes, Naked Revival, just kind of like going down back to the basics and just reviving like that foundational side of yourself. That's what I imagine in the name and like how it speaks to me.
You nailed it. Like naked is like getting rid of what doesn't work, getting rid of the bullshit.
Getting rid of the labels.
Yeah, getting rid of the labels, 100%. You go, right? And the revivals, okay, what am I taking with me now?
Yeah.
What are because I'm not going to go sit under a tree and meditate for the rest of my life. So
right.
What are the essentials that I love that give me joy, that give me purpose, right? And can help me find presence and transformation in life. So that's the revival part. You got it right away. And I love I love the concept of this label-free podcast. I think that labels are one of the things that trap us in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And your mission to get rid of those and provide the stories and the inspiration to do that, I think is so relevant, so important. and will always be needed because
Thank you.
we're always battling
Oh yeah.
back to the thinking brain likes the label because it feels safe, it feels organic, it puts us in a tribe, it puts us in a place.
Yeah.
But the freedom from when we remove those labels, the freedom that we have to explore who we really are and what we really can become is so rewarding.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking terrifying to do that in a world in which everybody's seemingly knows everything about us.
Yeah.
Has this idea of who we are.
Or who they think that you are, want to
Exactly.
put you in a box so that they feel comfortable with this idea that they have of who you are.
So I know you're going to keep going, but I just say keep going, girl. Like, it's awesome. There is this. So it's in line with Isaiah Berlin's. There's two types of freedom. There's negative freedom and there's positive freedom. And so negative freedom is freedom from money. Like, so you have money, therefore money is you're free with your money, or you have a nice house, or you have good health. But positive freedom is freedom from the labels. It's freedom from the critic in your mind. It's freedom from the things that give you fear. And that's the freedom that we all should be seeking, is not just the monetary and the material freedoms.
1000%. Nailed it. So you said joelprimus.com, which I will put the link in the show notes. And Naked Revival, what's the website address?
Yeah, nakedrevival.com. You can check that out. Right now, it's just a waiting list, but sign up because that underwear is going to drop and it's going to be exclusive. So there's only going to be a limited drop to start, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Awesome. You guys want to put that link in the show notes? And real quick, tell the audience about your podcast, the Ramble Podcast.
Yeah. I mean, the Ramble Podcast was... It's a bit tongue-in-cheek because people told me I ramble. You can tell me.
I don't think so. I think you're very, thought, like, you think things up before you say them. I don't think you ramble. I've had people that ramble on the show, and I can't get a word in, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I wanted to create a podcast that gave people an opportunity to really just let go over the course of a couple of hours and get to a place where they might not have gotten to in the first 15 minutes because of nerves or because of just, you're fearful of saying the wrong thing. And I just find that over time that can unwind and unravel itself. And all of a sudden you're saying things you never thought you'd say. And so that was the idea, and the spirit was these unbound, uncensored conversations about pursuits and people and places, but really it was like trying to get to that one thing that was that nugget that they would never share in a million years, but they just did, kind of thing.
I like it. And you're on all the things, on all the streaming platforms?
Yes, all the things, yeah.
All right. You guys, go ahead and check him out. Go subscribe, follow his podcast, and go check out his links. He is on social, so go follow him on social as well. Joel, this is the part of the show I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
I would leave with these two things. I would start your frame of mind in these crazy times where we are siloed and we think we know. Start from a place of, what if I just don't know anything? Start from a place of curiosity and openness to other people's ideas as well as what's possible for yourself. And choose to go on that adventure. Choose to go on the adventure of your own life, not knowing exactly where it's going to end up and what you might have to go through on the way there. But I think that's what we're here to do, is to live our own adventure.
I love that. It's very humbling when you just tell yourself you don't know anything. That was that was a lesson in martial arts for me, and like, as you learn more, you get more skilled, you really realize how less you know. And it's just, it sounds kind of backwards, but it's really the truth. And so that was beautiful.
I'm so grateful to have been on your podcast. Thank you for this opportunity.
It has been awesome. We could have kept going, but we'll have to have a part 2. We'll have to have you back after you launch your your brand and all the stuff and the lifestyle part of it, because I think that I love the idea and the concept. And I think it's very grassroots. Like, okay, let's just get back to the basics. And I think people are going to really align with that, because we see so much stuff all the time thrown at us, and something like that I think is going to be a game changer. So thank you, Joel, for sharing your wisdom and your stories with us today.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.